So good evening once again. This presentation will be recorded. A link of this recording will be emailed to you for future viewings. And we will also post a PowerPoint presentation on the senior Google Classroom as well as the guidance website. So welcome back, class of 2021 and parents. I am Jeanette Alomia, Director of Guidance and Testing. I hope you are all well and just as optimistic as I am about your students' future despite these unprecedented times. The Huntington Guidance Comprehensive Program is designed to address students' social, emotional, academic, and college and career needs. Therefore, we are ready to provide your student the support that he or she needs throughout the college admissions process and beyond. So this evening, I will talk about post-secondary planning and students' responsibilities. Mrs. Walsh, who is your college counselor, an amazing college counselor, will share with you what the college office offers, the NAVIANCE program. She will navigate you through the college admission criteria and procedures, financial aid and scholarships, and other special considerations. One thing that is very important is that we will have a Q&A session, which will be conducted at the end of the presentation. But you can send me your questions via the chat box. They will be sent to me privately. Just make sure that my name, Jeanette Alomia, is stated in your chat box. And we will be going through one by one each question, and we'll respond to your questions at the end of the presentation. You can also email your specific questions pertaining to your child to Mrs. Walsh, and her email will be displayed shortly. In terms of our post-secondary planning, we recognize that there are many concerns this year with regards to the college admissions process. Colleges are aware of students not being able to test or to be involved in extracurricular activities and sports. And so we expect flexibility from these institutions. I think that if anything, the silver lining to this situation with the pandemic is that students will have plenty of options in terms of college choices. And I think that there is that understanding that colleges are flexible and are interested in finding out not only how students dealt with the pandemic, however, how students have lived their lives the last 4 years, the last 3 years, the last 17 years of their lives. So college admissions folks do really are interested in hearing not just what happened in the last 6 months, but also what our students are doing, great things that are doing in school and outside of school. What we say is that it's not where you go, but what you do when you get there. And so you can start at a mid-level school. However, if you are a champion on that campus and you start becoming a student leader and get a lot in terms of that university, that actually is what matters in terms of students' college choice. Everyone's path will be unique. Remember that, and try not to compare yourself. And I'm talking straight at you, student, senior. You have your own unique path, just like you have your own unique fingerprints. Try not to compare yourself with your friends or other, other students that are in your class, your AP classes, or just be yourself and try to do your best. Uniqueness is highly valued among the college admissions world. It's very important to be organized, and when you are planning your post-secondary steps, it's important that you develop a system. If you haven't developed a system, whether it is to develop Google Sheets or Excel spreadsheets where you would organize your list of colleges and you would separate them, whether you have a group of target schools, reach schools, and foundations or safety schools. All this planning, I guarantee you, step by step with our assistance, absolute support will reduce your stress. and the stress of your parents too. So our role in the whole process is to advise you, to support you, to be your main cheerleader. So not only will you have Mrs. Walsh as your one-on-one college counselor, you will still have your school counselor that you've had since 9th grade. So you do have the support here. And again, any questions, we are here to help. Next slide. And so I would like to go over what the student responsibilities are. So students, own the process. This is like going for that internship or that summer job. When you go for an interview, prepare yourself for the journey, which is exciting. And believe it or not, it will be over before you know it, and you'll be attending college, which you'll be there a year from now. So own the process. Is yours and only yours. The other question that I want to ask you, senior student, have you verified the accuracy of your transcript? I will be posting updated transcripts soon. And so you and mom and dad and your guardian will be reviewing your transcript for accuracy and making sure that the transcript is accurate, pristine, and ready to go to your colleges. Are you taking a rigorous academic program? Are you taking the most rigorous classes, the most challenging classes that you can handle? What steps have you taken to research school and complete the application on time? What have you been doing for the last few weeks in terms of your research? Have you been using NAVIANCE? And again, Mrs. Walsh will be talking about the tool and the program. Have you started working on your college essay? Have you looked at the prompts? Which prompt are you choosing? Are you choosing to talk about how COVID-19 affected you, or are you gonna also highlight and choose another prompt that would highlight your goals and dreams and perhaps some experience that you've had prior to the pandemic? Student athletes, it's very important that you have filed with the NCAA. I cannot stress that in terms of colleges, they want to make sure that you are clear with the NCAA. So speak to, again, Mrs. Walsh, myself, or your counselor immediately with regards to getting yourself registered so that you can be considered academically eligible to play for a Division I or Division II school. Communicate and monitor. I can't stress enough how at this point in time you are about 17, 18 years old, and your independent skills, you have acquired independent skills and self-advocacy skills that it's very important to communicate and reach out to us and ask questions. Have you joined the class of 2021 Remind group? This is the code at Mrs. Brunoni. I would definitely encourage you to do that, as we are often posting announcements. I'm very impressed. I've been seeing for the last 2 weeks dozens of people, folks, parents, and students joining the Remind group. So kudos to you. Have you made an appointment with the college office? Mrs. Walsh is a fountain of resource. She has been doing this for almost 2 decades, and so she does have the knowledge and the experience to help you and equip you with the tools so that you can have a successful college admissions process. Do you know which of the schools you're applying to require supplemental essays? Very important to look into that, as that is one of what's called a demonstrated interest. Not only now that you cannot visit a campus, going into very genuine and answering that supplemental essay and explaining why you want to attend that school will actually take you to higher places in terms of getting into that institution. Do you know how to utilize NAVIANCE to request recommendation letters? You probably know about college research, the career exploration, different type of tasks. However, we will show you in terms of how to request that letter of recommendation from the teacher. In terms of dates and deadlines, do you know the deadlines of your institutions or your colleges? Do you know the deadline for your CSS profile, etc.? We'll talk more about that. What I do highly encourage you, and this is definitely, you know, I can speak all day about it, is to follow up with the college office on all admission decisions. It is important that we know not only where you're applying to, but where also what are the outcomes, where you got in, where you got deferred. And so it is important for you to let us know where you're attending. So a lot of times we hear a lot about, I'm applying here and there because you're helping me, but we also want to know where you're actually going in a timely fashion, because we want to celebrate you. And so I'm going to stop here in terms of speaking. I'm definitely going to have Mrs. Walsh take the floor and talk to you about a plethora of information that I hope that you find very, very useful. And again, we'll be opening the chat throughout the presentation, and we'll be responding to any questions if you want to use the chat box, and just send those questions to me. Mrs. Walsh.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. So in almost 20 years of doing this, this is my first time presenting on the screen like this, and thanks for welcoming me into your homes. This is my second home, the college office, where I've been working for a long, long time. You know, we're going to be flexible this year, so much of what we're going to do is going to be through virtual conversations and the phone and whatnot. But we are here, we're ready, we're excited to get going on this process with you. As you can see, the college office is a dedicated center for students to research colleges' careers. Mrs. Catalano and I, she's my secretary, we are the folks that coordinate those college visits, the college fairs. One of our colleagues, Ms. Bonilla, is our scholarship coordinator, and you'll hear from her in the next couple of weeks. We post a Friday flyer, which has a ton of information on the post-secondary planning process, from standardized tests to college visits to summer programs and whatnot. In terms of financial aid, we have lots of information about that. I'll talk about it later on in the presentation. Of course, NCAA and NAVIANCE, the system that you're very familiar with and will get even more familiar with as we go through the next couple of months in the college application process. So I do appreciate the fact that with students being in school once, perhaps twice a week, it's hard to come down to the college office. That is why I've put together a Google Classroom for everybody, for students, so that you can access all the information that you normally would be able to pick up from me were you in the building every day. And that doesn't mean you can't come to the college office on your cohort day, of course, but for quick reference, the Google Classroom has everything that a student will need. Most students have joined the classroom already, and if you haven't, seniors, please do so. The code is right here, or you can just scan the code as well. I've organized the information in the classroom to make it very easy for you in this process. And so you'll see in the classwork section, there are a couple of different headers between college rep visits, the application platforms, and so on and so forth. This is really your landing pad. So whether you're working at home on an application one night and not exactly sure what this piece means, what that piece means, always refer to the Google Classroom. I've put lots of helpful videos on, some how-to guides. There's some paperwork that you will need as you go through the application process. Everything is right there. Seniors, be sure that you've turned on your notifications on the classroom so that as I'm posting new material, you'll receive the updates on that as well. So from the students that I've spoken to, they have found that the classroom is pretty easy to navigate around. You can find what you're looking for easily. The videos have been very helpful. There's Common App videos in there. There's NAVIANCE videos. They're going to show you everything that you need to know to successfully apply to your schools, and then with our help, coordinate some of the other pieces to the process. So the Google Classroom is definitely a huge resource for you. And another is the NAVIANCE platform. You'll also access NAVIANCE through Clever. That's how students will get into NAVIANCE. Parents and guardians, you also have NAVIANCE access. And so if you have misplaced your username, you need your password reset, please email me. You can email your child's school counselor as well, and we're happy to fix that for you so you can get into the NAVIANCE system. And you'll remember that NAVIANCE has been a way for you for many years to research colleges, research careers, partake in some interest inventories, follow up with what we call the Road Trip Nation. So it's been a really great tool for post-secondary planning. As seniors, NAVIANCE opens up a few more permissions for you to now request letters of recommendation and to keep track of the components of your college applications. We also use NAVIANCE as a communication platform. So the same way we do with the Remind program, the NAVIANCE system is our email system for you. So please do us a favor and update your email address in your NAVIANCE account. That goes for students and parents and guardians. We want to be sure that we have the correct information so that we can push out the information we need to you in a timely manner. We send lots of information out regarding college visits, college fairs, upcoming information about standardized tests, and different programs that we have here, in addition to many, many more things. So as long as your email address is correct in NAVIANCE, you'll be able to receive all that information from us. Now, some of you who've been getting those emails from me from NAVIANCE have seen that we have quite a few college reps signed up to meet with students virtually over the course of the next couple of months. And so there are, quite a few seniors, maybe the majority, that are still in what we would call the research phase of the college application process. So NAVIANCE has an entire list of colleges that have signed up to meet with our students after school hours. Traditionally, those reps would come here to the college office and meet with students in small group settings during the periods. But that's no longer an option, obviously. So I've set up NAVIANCE to coordinate the college rep visits after school hours. So on the hour, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 6 o'clock, we have admissions counselors who signed up to meet with students from Huntington High School. Students, all you need to do is register for this. And so if you go into your NAVIANCE account, you will see a whole list of schools. You can sign up for as many as you like, given your schedule and what you kind of have going on at night after school. And these sessions are just for Huntington High School students. So it's not that it's open up to all students in Suffolk County or all students, in the town of Huntington. This is for Huntington High School. So a great opportunity for you to ask questions, especially those of you that are still in the research phase and trying to figure out which schools you want to apply to and so on. Now, once you sort of get through this, this research phase and you're kind of getting comfortable with which schools you want to apply to, it's really helpful to know what that admissions criteria will look like. So between the 2 and the 4-year schools, we've got some major differences. We've got the transcript. Everybody wants to see your transcript. Standardized test scores could be a possibility depending on the colleges. And then for the 4-year schools, we're looking at the extracurricular activities, the letters of recommendation, perhaps an essay, and depending on student major, portfolio, or audition. So depending on the schools you're applying to, these are the pieces that we need to put together to complete the applications. Now, when will these applications when will they be due? Well, it all depends on the application type that you decide to pursue. So you see here on this slide the various options. We've got regular decision, early action, early decision, single choice or restrictive early action, and rolling admission. And it's really, really important to get to know these different programs so that you can plan out the next couple of weeks or months, depending on the application type you choose. The regular decision option usually has a deadline of about January 1st to January 15th or not. You submit your application by January. There's no advantage in applying earlier than January, but you're not able to apply after January. So it's a hard deadline. When you apply regular decision, typically you'll be notified of your admissions decision, usually about the beginning to the middle of March or so. But you're not bound to attend that college. You've got an option though, but you're not bound to attend. The early programs, the next three, early action, early decision, and single choice early action, allow students to apply to their college approximately 2 months before the regular decision deadline. So usually those early deadlines are anywhere between October 15th and November 15th. And when you're applying through these different programs, your application is reviewed much earlier than the large majority of students who are applying. But there's a couple of catches here. With an early action program, you're applying early, you're notified early, and if you're accepted, you're saying, I might be attending your college, but you're not required to. With early decision, this is the binding program. So if you apply to a school early decision, it must be the college that you love, love, love. You've been wearing this college's t-shirt since you were 5 years old. It's the school you want to go to no matter what. And you're signing a contract, parents signing a contract, I'm signing the contract as well, that we all understand that this is a binding program. Single choice early action means that you're allowed to apply to this one school through the early action program. And while you're not required to attend that school if you're admitted, you can't apply anywhere else early. And rolling admission means that there actually is no application deadline. And so the earlier you apply, the better your chances are of being admitted. You just need to make sure that you're meeting you meet the admissions criteria. So the deadline to submit your deposit is May 1st, typically. That's a national candidate reply date. So by May 1st, you're handing in your deposit to attend the school that you'll be going to in September. With early decision, you're going to be asked to submit that deposit months prior. If you're not ready to make that decision about applying early decision, you want some more choices, you want some more flexibility, you want to wait some time, you're just not sure you know what school you want to apply to yet, you apply regular or early action or rolling admission or even restrictive early action because they're non-binding in that sense. And you may find that the schools that you're looking at have different options. So you have to decide what's best for you. You may decide at colleges A, B, and C, you want to apply early action. And then at colleges D, E, and F, you're going to apply regular decision. And perhaps there's another school in that mix that you're going to apply to early decision. You can only apply to one school early decision. You can apply to multiple schools early action. So these are things to keep in mind as you are considering which schools you want to apply to, and of course in organizing the applications and your deadlines. A lot of it ties right back to these application options. So how does it all begin? Where do we start? I'm meeting with students regularly. I have been for quite some time now. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can scan the code right here. You can also log into the Google Classroom, and there is a form that you can fill out to request an appointment. And what we'll do is we will coordinate a time that is convenient for all of us to meet together. Whether it's through phone conversation or through a Google Meet, whatever works best for you. In order to initiate that process, though, there's a couple of things that I need. I need to have that appraising myself as I plan for the future packets. A lot of students have already brought that back. They've emailed it to me over the past few months, even dropped it off on the cohort days. This packet was distributed last winter, actually in February, when I visited the students when you guys were juniors in your English classes. And it's not too late, of course not. You can download this packet from the Google Classroom. On your cohort day, you can stop into the college office and pick up a copy. The important thing about the Appraising Myself as I Plan for the Future packet is that it's going to give me a lot of information so that I can help you the best way possible. So I'm asking you about your goals, what you're looking for in your post-secondary experience. I'm asking you if you have any special considerations, if you're looking for a particular type of school, a school closer to home, further away, bigger, smaller, if you've got a certain price point, if you're interested in certain majors and what have you. It gives me good feedback. And also, in this process of applying to colleges, I'm considered your school counselor. So sometimes a college application is going to ask you to put down your school counselor's info. That's me. In the Google Classroom, all of my information is there so that you can share that with colleges if they're asking. They are also probably going to ask for a letter of recommendation from your school counselor. And in this process, I'm writing that letter of recommendation for you. So my job is to, of course, support you through this application process and also to recommend you to the colleges to which you're applying. So this Appraising Myself packet gives me some great feedback that I can use to present you to the admissions counselors, okay? Now, the applications themselves have a couple of different components to them. Yes, there's the application, which you'll be filling out online. It's very, very rare nowadays that there are paper applications. You know, years and years ago, we would mail applications, we would photocopy letters of recommendation, we would have big envelopes. I would have students addressing envelopes and bringing them to me. We'd mail them out to the colleges. That's no longer the case. Everything is sent online. And we'll talk about some of those platforms of how you're going to do this in just a little while. So the application, of course, you know, that's standard. And along with that application will be the transcript, something that we call our school profile. Our school profile is sort of like Huntington's resume, and it accompanies the transcript and helps admissions counselors get to know our community, our academic community better. We talk about some of the schools that our students have been admitted to over the past couple of years. We talk about the programs that are available, our AP program, our honors program, our internship program, some unique opportunities that we have here at Huntington High School. So it's meant to give admissions counselors a good sense of the academic environment in which those students have studied. The counselor recommendation, and something called our secondary school reports, teacher recommendations, a college essay. Some colleges may require supplemental essays, and those would be college specific. Usually this is where a college asks, why are you applying to our school? Why are you pursuing this particular major? The colleges want to know what you're doing in your spare time. That's the activity sheet, and that's where we are going to demonstrate community service. You're going to be speaking about sports clubs, work experience, things like that. Students who are applying early decision, you will be submitting an early decision contract that, as I mentioned, students will sign, I will sign, parents and guardians will sign. Some colleges may request what we call a mid-year report. And that is where the college is asking for the first semester report card. And if a college is requesting that, that would be sent out after the first semester, so usually in February or so. Optional report, if applicable, you know, that's you know, in a few situations we would need that. We could talk about that later on. And a final report. This is going to accompany the final transcript, which will be sent out to the college the student decides to enroll at. And so when you graduate in June, a final transcript is generated. I will send that out to the school where you are going to enroll in September. So we've got a couple of different pieces here. We've got your transcripts and the recommendations and a couple of reports. And these are going to be sent to the colleges through NAVIANCE. So this is why it's so important, students, that you get into NAVIANCE so that you can track all of this information and really keep an eye on when things were sent to your college and so on. NAVIANCE is like the middleman between Huntington High School and the schools that you are applying to. And I'll talk in a little bit about how we are going to make all of this happen to get the information to flow to your colleges. But know that I send your transcript through NAVIANCE. I send my letter of recommendation for you and any other school reports through NAVIANCE, and your teachers are going to do the same. Other relevant college documents will also be sent through NAVIANCE if applicable. So NAVIANCE is a kingpin here. You need to be able to get into your NAVIANCE account. If you're having trouble, please reach out to me as soon as you can, or get in touch with your school counselor, because we need to make sure that you're able to log in. Now, there are two main application platforms. Remember, as I said, you're going to be applying online. And the two main platforms that you would use would be the coalition application and the common application. Many of you are probably familiar with the Common Application. Not as many schools use the Coalition application. As you can see right here, it's about 150 schools. It's a platform where you fill out the application one time and you can send it to about 150 colleges. You'll see the website right there, and you can take a look and see which schools participate. The Common Application you're more familiar with. So we've got about 900 schools that will use the Common Application, close to home, further away, big schools, small schools, you name it. They're going to vary in deadlines, fees, any additional requirements. One application, one main essay, and new this year, the Common Application has put in a COVID question, which is optional. So for students who have been impacted by COVID, which many we have, should you choose to answer this question, you can. And this is going to be your space to talk about what the last couple of months may have looked like for you. Some students may have a parent who's a first responder, and so on. And you may want to take this space to talk about your experiences over the last couple of months. Not required, but an option. Now, you may also have the option to apply through multiple platforms. And I'll give you an example. SUNY Binghamton, you can apply to Binghamton through the Common Application, through the Coalition application, or through the SUNY application. And there's no preference. Some students would think, well, because it's a SUNY school, I should apply through SUNY. No, not at all. Whatever's easier for you. Now, to me, and to many students that I've worked with over the years, the Common Application is the easiest application out there. Yes, it's tedious, and if you have older siblings who've gone through this process, there's a lot of different pages to the Common Application, but it's very straightforward and it's easy to navigate from one page to the next. The nice part about the Common Application is that everything is saved. So you can create an account, work on it a little bit, and then come back to it the next day, come back to it the next week, what have you. So little by little, you can put in the information. And there are, quite a few pieces to it. The Common Application and NAVIANCE will work together. And what's going to happen is we're going to complete what we call a NAVIANCE Common Application matching process. And that allows the two systems to talk together so that we can send materials to your colleges effectively, efficiently, and on time. So the majority of you will be using the Common Application. If you have not created an account yet, I would do so ASAP. What you see on the screen in front of you right now are the different tabs of the Common Application. And the tab that says Common App, that's where all of your personal information is going to be. This is where you type in your family information, where you live, where you go to school, and whatnot. And eventually, you're going to be able to create a list of schools right in the Common Application by using the College Search tab. Once you add schools to your Common Application accounts, this is when you can start to really keep track of application deadlines, application fees, and application requirements. The My Colleges page is going to give you all of that information. And what you can see on the screen in front of you is what the drop-down will look like once we open up one of those college-specific pages. So in my test account right here, I've got a few schools: Cornell, LIU, NYU, SCAD, St. Joe's, Stony Brook, and UVA. For each one of those schools, you're going to see a set of questions. You're going to see information where it's a link that says recommenders and FERPA. You're going to see review and submit Common App. And you may, depending on the colleges, see a section that says additional questions or supplemental questions. In order to match your Common Application and your NAVIANCE account and get the two systems talking to each other so that we can send things out for you, you have to sign the FERPA waiver. And the FERPA waiver basically says to the admissions counselors that you have not tampered with your letters of recommendation. You have not asked a teacher to leave something out. You have not asked a teacher to put something specific in. You're waiving your FERPA rights to view those recommendations. And so it signifies to the admissions counselors that this is an authentic, honest process. And that's what they're looking for. So you have to sign this FERPA waiver. And once you do that, we're going to be able to match your common application with your NAVIANCE account. I've actually been walking students through this process during our individual sessions over the past couple of days, and it's relatively easy. There is actually a how-to video right in the Google Classroom, but just to show you what it looks like, after you sign the FERPA waiver on the common application, you go into your NAVIANCE account, and you're going to see in the colleges I'm applying to section, a hot pink bar across your screen, and you'll see the option to, or the tab to match accounts. Once you match your accounts, all of the schools that were on your common application are now going to show up on your NAVIANCE account. And this is super important. I need to see the schools you're applying to on your NAVIANCE account, and your teachers do as well, so that we can send out your transcript and your letters of recommendation to these colleges. So without your schools listed in your NAVIANCE account, we're not going to have that link to send items out to your schools through NAVIANCE. Now, yes, there are going to be students who are applying to colleges that aren't common application schools. Not every college is. With only 900 schools or so on the common application and over 4,000 colleges in this country, there's a lot of schools that aren't on the common app. And so if that's the case, you're going to see a plus button right on this page, colleges I'm applying to, and this is where you're going to add the schools in manually. So for instance, there are some CUNY schools, City University of New York schools, that use the common application, and some others that don't, City College being one of them. So if you're applying to City College, you would click the plus button and you would type in City College manually. Super important that we see this information so that we can then send materials out for you. Your teachers are going to be submitting letters of recommendation for you through NAVIANCE. Some of you have begun this process of requesting recommendation letters. You've emailed your teachers, you've seen them in the hallway, maybe you did this last year, maybe you sent requests over the summer. If you haven't started this yet though, I need you to consider which teachers you'd like to ask to write your recommendations. Typically, students ask for letters of recommendation from their junior year courses, typically. Typically, students will request letters of recommendation from core areas. Again, that's typical, but this is not a requirement. So you need to think about those teachers that know you the best academically. They see your grit, your perseverance, they see your collaborative skills in class, they see how you've worked through challenging material. And if that teacher happens to be from sophomore year or junior year or from a non-core class, these are all valuable recommenders. There is a specific process to request letters of recommendation. And that process is outlined on the Google Classroom, and there's even a video to help you out with that. So in the Google Classroom, you're going to see a section in classwork that says letters of recommendation, and all the steps are right there. I will write a letter of recommendation for you as well. You don't have to request that letter though. I'm going to forward it for you, and you don't have to do anything special with that other than making sure that you are communicating with me, submitting that, praising myself as a plan for the future packet, and so on. Now, requesting letters of recommendation, as I said, it is outlined in the Google Classroom, but this is a screenshot of what it looks like in NAVIANCE. So basically, you are going to see a drop-down menu where you select the teacher that you are planning on asking, and then you're going to have an option to request certain colleges that you want that letter of recommendation to go to, or you can have it sent to all of your schools. But you'll see right here on the screen that NAVIANCE will let you know how many recommendations are required, and then of course how many are allowed. So for instance, you see here Cornell University requires 2 letters of recommendation, but they'll take up to 3. LIU Post, they don't require letters of recommendation, but they'll take up to 2. So this is another great way for you to keep track of those application requirements. Now, when a teacher receives this recommendation request, they'll receive an email that will state the schools you're applying to, and it will grant them access into your file on their NAVIANCE account. So they, at that point, can upload their letter, fill out any forms that they need to, and then send it directly to your schools. The letters of recommendation from teachers are not passed through me. They're not going to you. They're going from the teacher right to the admissions office. So in addition to asking for those letters of recommendation, you are also going to be submitting this recommendation request so that your teachers have the link. Now, here's the thing. You can always add a school to your list. You're in the research phase, right? So if you add a school in 2 weeks, that's fine. That's fine. If your teacher has submitted a letter of recommendation for you to, say, 5 schools and you want to add another 3 or 4, that's fine. You can do that. Your letter of recommendation will be stored in NAVIANCE. You just have to let your teachers know that you've added schools to your list. So all they have to do at that point is log into NAVIANCE and submit their letter to the additional colleges. So it's a very straightforward process. Now, standardized tests. I know that there's been a lot of information over the past couple of months about SATs, about ACTs, and so we just wanted to share some of that information with you, as well as give you some of the helpful websites and phone numbers to the different testing organizations. We here at Huntington High School are not allowed to send out your test scores. The colleges will not accept them from us as official. So if you are sending test scores to your colleges, you'll be using the College Board website or the ACT website, AP or whatnot. They'll be self-reported. Now, I mentioned on here fairtest.org. Okay, and what that refers to is a list of schools that are test optional. So should I test? Should I send scores? What should I do? Admissions offices, are being very flexible at this point with the testing. And so you probably have read that many schools are moving towards test optional or, say, test flexible policies. And there's another option here called test blind. So depending on the schools you apply to, the college will give you the option to send those scores. If you want to, you can, but do you have to? No. With test blind, that means that the college will not look at test scores no matter what. So if you've tested and you send your scores, they will not be evaluated. They're saying, don't even bother sending it to us. What I am hearing from admissions counselors, though, is this. If you have tested and you're not sure if you should send your scores or not, you need to call the admissions office. You need to ask them what the next steps would be. The colleges, they're there to be honest and upfront with you and give you the right answer for you. So based on your scores, they may say, yes, send over your scores, they could be helpful, or no, you don't have to send them. And if you don't send them, that's okay. Colleges understand that so much of what's going on right now, and what happened in the spring with the pandemic and closing test centers and students being kicked out of tests and so on, this is out of your control. This is not something that you had any prior knowledge of, and they don't want any student to feel or to be disadvantaged in this process. So test optional is truly test optional. Test flexible is truly test flexible. Test blind is test blind. Specific questions should always be directed to the admissions office. And I'll tell you another thing. The virtual visits that we have set up with over 100 colleges over the next couple of months are a great opportunity for you to ask these questions. And if you don't feel comfortable asking them in a group setting through the Zoom meetings or the Google Meets, however the college sets it up, you can always call the admissions office directly and ask these questions. You want to hear from the horse's mouth so it can help you make a better decision. You may decide at the end of the day that you want to send some scores to some colleges and leave your scores off for other schools. And that's completely up to you. Always defer to the admissions office, though. A little information about SUNY. SUNY has suspended their testing requirements for right now. If you want to send scores over, you can though. Some of the colleges in SUNY, though, may require scores for scholarship consideration. So these are things to think about. SUNY is one system, but the campuses very much run their application process independently. 64 campuses, 30 community colleges. I'm sure everybody in this Zoom meeting right now knows somebody who is enrolled at a SUNY school or graduated from a SUNY school. Varying academic requirements. We've got schools closer to home like Nassau, Suffolk, Stony Brook, FIT, and those that are much further away, Plattsburgh, Oswego, and so on. With SUNY, you can apply through the SUNY website, through the Common Application, or as I mentioned before, some of the schools will be on the Coalition application. SUNY is hosting many virtual fairs right now, and all of that information is posted on the Friday flyer, which is on the Google Classroom. We next have CUNY, City University of New York. There are 11 senior colleges, 7 community colleges. CUNY, as I mentioned, has completely suspended the use of SAT and ACT. So whether you're applying to the 2-year schools, the 4-year schools, the Macaulay Honors Program, Sophie Davis, they are not looking at SATs or ACTs. They're saying, do not bother to send them. Within CUNY, as I mentioned, we do have the special Macaulay Honors Program. There is a different deadline for the Macaulay program than there is for general freshman admission. So as you're looking through both SUNY and CUNY, you want to get to know the system and the different schools within the umbrella, and know that the different schools within these umbrellas have very different programs, very different admissions policies from school to school, even though they are both public systems. Now, the records release form, this is really important. Students, you're applying online, you're requesting letters of recommendation, you are going to be asking for us to send things out for you. So the way I know what schools you're applying to is going to be through the records release form. And this form you can find here in the college office, so on your cohort day you can come and pick some up. And it's also available on the Google Classroom, so you can print it out, fill it out, and bring it back to me. It's basically a checklist. I want to know what schools you're applying to, your application deadlines. I want to make sure you have these schools listed on your NAVIANCE account. If you are applying early decision, I want to make sure that you've noted that there so that I can then go ahead and sign that, contract as well. 1 form per college. If you're applying to 10 schools, you're going to bring me 10 records release forms. And these forms are going to be due 15 school days before your application deadline. So if you're applying to a school with a November 1st deadline, I would need that form back in my office 15 days before that deadline. The records release form that you'll see on the Google Classroom actually has a list of dates and deadlines on the second page of it, so you can reference that so you get a better idea of when you need to submit these forms. One thing that you should know is that you don't need to apply to your schools 15 days ahead of time. I just need to know about it. There's a lot of processing on our end here with your transcript and your recommendations and so on, so that we need to make sure that we have enough time to get everything out to your schools by those deadlines. You can give me your records release forms even before, way before 15 days ahead of time. So if you have January deadlines and you want to get those records release forms into us, that's fine, you can do that. We'll take those at any point. It just starts the process on my end of making sure we've got everything we need to process our pieces of the application for you. Now, sometimes the student's concerned about their record release forms and what happens if I don't apply to this school. I've given you a record release form and what happens? So when a student gives me a record release form, I'm going to start the process of sending things out to the college. If, lo and behold, you decide not to apply to that school, that's okay. That's okay. The college will shred our materials once it meets the application deadline and you haven't applied. So not to worry about that. It's okay. I just want you to think about, all right, let's get all these forms done so that Mrs. Walsh and Mrs. Catalano can start working on the pieces of the puzzle so that you can then apply on time. Now, Mrs. Alamillo referred to the transcript in the beginning of the presentation about reviewing the accuracy of your transcript. And seniors and parents and guardians, this is really, really important to make sure that you have looked over your transcript before we send it out to your colleges. So in the next couple of days or so, you're going to be getting a notification from Mrs. Alamillo to review that transcript again. We're going to be asking you, seniors and parents and guardians, to complete what we call a transcript approval form. This transcript approval form is actually already located on the Google Classroom in the forms section. And this is where I'm going to ask you to let me know that, yes, you've reviewed your transcript, everything is correct on it, it is error-free, you sign parent signs, and you're good to go. Or this is where you're going to tell me there's a problem. And whatever it is, I will investigate it with your school counselor and make sure that we can discuss it and fix it and see what's going on. But I can't send out a transcript for you until I know that you've okayed this. And that's, of course, for your protection as well. So be sure that you go on to the student and parent portals, look at the transcript, make sure you understand what you see there, make sure that it's error-free, and fill out that form. I have hard copies of the transcript approval form in the college office as well. So if you feel more comfortable with that, you can always do that too. Come on in on your cohort day and you can pick one up, bring it home, and bring it back to us, okay? Financial aid. So after you've applied, how are we going to pay for school? So financial aid covers a couple of different pieces here. And we've got a couple of applications that are going to be filled out in order to apply for financial aid. We've got the FAFSA, we've got the TAP application, and we've got the CSS profile. And these are the three big ones. Colleges may have their own financial aid applications as well, kind of an addendum to these three. So definitely be on the lookout for that. We are going to be hosting Financial Aid Night on October 8th, and we will provide a Zoom link. And we're also going to be hosting a FAFSA completion night on November 4th, and we will be sending out a Zoom link. But just to give you an idea about these three different applications, we'll start with FAFSA first. You've probably heard of this one, the free application for federal student aid. This is the form that the colleges will eventually receive, and it will help them distribute their federal funds. This application is not available until October 1st. So you can't do anything with this right now. All colleges in the US that receive federal funds, which is all but a very, very small number, will accept the free application for federal student aid. So whether you're thinking about applying to college in New York or Hawaii or anywhere in between, you're filling out the FAFSA. You will be filling out the TAP application if you are planning on enrolling in a college in New York State, because the TAP application helps the colleges distribute New York State aid. This application is also available on October 1st, but you need to complete the FAFSA first in order to apply for TAP. The third application is the CSS profile. And this form is used by about 400 colleges and universities to distribute their own institutional funds. So the colleges that use the CSS profile are those colleges that have very deep pockets. And they have money to distribute however they see fit. The CSS profile helps them to do that. Depending on the schools you apply to, you may be filling out one of these forms, two of these forms, or three of these forms. For instance, if you are applying to SUNY Old Westbury, you're filling out the FAFSA and you're filling out the TAP application. If you are applying to University of Connecticut, you're filling out the FAFSA. If you're applying to Colgate University, upstate New York, private college, you're filling out the FAFSA, the TAP application, and the CSS profile. So depending on the schools you apply to, you may be doing one, two, or three of these applications, all three of which are available October 1st. And I would highly recommend that you attend the financial aid program on October 8th. Specific questions about college financial aid can always be directed to the financial aid offices at the different schools. Just the same way there are dedicated admissions counselors to work with you through the application process, there are dedicated financial aid counselors to help you through the financial aid process. So make sure you take advantage of that when you have any particular questions or concerns, or if you realize that there might be some extra paperwork that the college is asking for from the financial aid office, make sure you always follow up with that. Scholarships, of course, there's scholarship money that's going to be available as well. These are just a couple of the ways that students are going to be receiving scholarship money. New York State has their own scholarship programs. You may have heard of the STEM Incentive Scholarship, and there's many others. And you'll find those on the HESC website that you see right here. There are scholarships available from parents' unions, cultural organizations, religious organizations, scholarships from Best Buy, Nike, Target, you name it. Colleges often have their own merit scholarships, and these are sort of like a reward for a job well done. Could be based on student grades, could be based on involvement, could be based on athletic participation, could be based on community service. So colleges often have their own scholarship money available. So the same way you're researching this application process, you are also going to be researching the scholarship process. So do be sure that you're checking into this. And as you're bouncing around the college websites, usually you'll find scholarship information in the financial aid tab on the college's websites. You might see that there are special applications you have to fill out for these scholarships. You might see that you need a special or a separate letter of recommendation for the scholarships. Write all that down and stay organized to make sure that you are meeting all of these different deadlines. I have seen many schools tie their scholarship deadlines to their early application deadlines. So do keep that in mind. The money can run out eventually. So the earlier you apply for financial aid and scholarships, the better you're going to be. I mentioned earlier, way at the beginning of the presentation, that Ms. Bonilla is our scholarship coordinator. And so she creates a newsletter quarterly that will be posted in the Google Classroom. It'll also be posted on the district website. She's working on that right now, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have that posted. But in the meantime, another great resource to look for scholarships is going to be through NAVIANCE. So what you can do is in NAVIANCE, in the college tab, you will see once you scroll down the National Scholarship Search, which is a vetted database of scholarships that you can search through. You actually fill out a small little profile, and based on how you fill out the profile, the National Scholarship Search will narrow things down for you so that you can focus on a couple of scholarships that you might just be eligible for based on the criteria you put into your profile, which could be, interest in certain majors, activities, and things like that. Now, the last piece to this presentation before we go through some Q&A are going to be some special considerations. And so these pieces right here about learning accommodations and support, NCAA, portfolio requirements, different audition deadlines and whatnot. These are specific student questions, specific colleges that will have these requirements, specific programs that may have admissions based around portfolio requirements. You may be considering playing a college level sport in Division I or II program. As Mrs. Alamia said earlier, registering with the NCAA is required. If you're looking for support programs in college, these are all things that we can talk about. And this is part of our individual meetings, is discussing these very specific things that you may have concerns about, how it all works, how it's all going to unfold. So I encourage you to reach out, make appointments, ask questions when they come up. Mrs. Alamia, myself, your school counselors, we are all here to support you and help you. And even though you're here 1, perhaps 2 days a week, we have this option to communicate virtually. We have the option to communicate over phone. We are available for you. So please reach out when things are coming up. And we expect them to. No process is without its questions, and that's okay. And this is not a one-size-fits-all all type of process either. And so ask when you're concerned. Let us know when you're confused about something, and we'll certainly be there to help you out. And so, at this point, I think this is the time we can go through some of the Q&A. Perhaps there's things that you still have questions on, maybe something that I didn't address in as much detail as you need, whatever the case may be. So we can go through those now.
Thank you, Mrs. Walsh. So right now I'm going back to the chat box. As I look at the questions, I will be asking away and we'll get to them. So if a parent is interested in knowing more about deadlines such as restrictive early action for the IVs, is that part of that conversation, Mrs. Walsh, that you're also having in your meetings with students and parents?
Yes, yes. As we're having our meetings, we are also strategizing. So we're talking about the different application options, and based on the schools that you're planning on applying to, which might be the best route. Now, of course, if you were to go on to, say, Columbia's website, Dartmouth's website, and any of the Ivy websites, or any college website, to be honest with you, you will see on the admissions page some outlines of the different programs that they have available. So they'll talk about their regular decision program and those deadlines. They'll talk about the early programs and those deadlines. If a school has a single choice / restrictive early action program, that college will talk about what those restrictions look like. So it'll all be on the college websites, but yes, when we meet together, these are things that we can discuss and begin to strategize what might be the best course of action for you in terms of what should we think about with regular decision, what should we think about with early decision, early action, and so on.
Another question is, when is our profile sheet going to be available to view? And we will post that on the website in a few, I would say within a week or two, we should be ready to post that school profile.
The school profile, it has lots of information from, our number of students going to 2-year schools, 4-year schools, a lot of data that's put onto this as well. So yes, be posted in a few days or so.
So Mrs. Walsh, when a student has an early deadline or even wants to apply prior to a November 1st deadline, would you say that you would have a letter of recommendation by that time, let's say by early October, mid-October? Would that be a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. So when I receive the records release forms, I don't let them build until the application deadline. I am working on those consistently, and yes, so when you start bringing in forms to me, that's when I start the process of working on the recommendation letter, taking a look to make sure your transcript's approved. So yes, that's absolutely a possibility. So students who are thinking about applying earlier than later, yes, bring those release forms in ASAP. I evaluate them. If I have questions, I'm going to reach out to you and we'll discuss it.
Great, thank you. And what is the best way to contact a college that is not visiting us?
Sure. Yeah. So we have over 100 schools that are coming in, but that's not nearly all the schools that you're interested in. But you can certainly reach out to the admissions office at each school. Usually they'll have posted right on their website the virtual opportunities and events that they're going to be hosting. But something to keep in mind is that the majority of colleges, the large majority of colleges, have dedicated admissions counselors for Huntington High School, or say Suffolk County or New York. And these are the folks who read our applications. These are the folks who read through our profile to get to know Huntington High School better. So those are the folks that you want to reach out to. So sometimes it's very easy to locate that information on the college websites, and sometimes it's not so easy. And if you're finding a hard time figuring out who our admissions counselor is, you can always type in the search bar on the college's admissions page, admissions counselors. It'll bring you to the list of names, and you should see right there the admissions counselor's territory responsibility.
Great, thanks. So what if a student is 100% virtual, and how can they obtain the records release form, and they're asking if they can sign it, scan it in email?
Yes, so every form that I've discussed tonight and more is on the Google Classroom. Everything is right there. You can download it, fill it out. You can email them back to me if you want to scan an email, whatever you like. Yes, everything is right there to make this nice and easy for all students, because we know that whether you're complete virtual or you're in hybrid, even if you are in hybrid, you're not here the majority of days. So everything is at your disposal online. So yes, if you're a hybrid student, you can drop the forms off to me on your cohort day. If you're a virtual student, you can email them to me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I know the answer to this is probably a big yes. Can parents set up a meeting to get help with the process?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As Mrs. Elamia said, this presentation is going to be posted, but just so if you've got a pen and pencil and you want to write it down, the college office phone number is 631-673-2131. That's 631-673-2131. And you can always call. Mrs. Catalano will be happy to set something up with us.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Someone thanked us. Well,
You're welcome.
plenty of thank yous for an informative evening, so this is great. You're very welcome. Our pleasure. Okay. If my child will be attending community college, will he still need to meet with you as well as fill out the appraising myself packet, activity sheet, etc.?
That's a personal decision. I'm here to help students who are looking at 4-year schools, 2-year schools, students who are considering gap year programs. I work with students who are considering employment opportunities after high school. So this is post-secondary planning. We're doing everything here. So I can certainly meet with anybody and everybody. I'm happy to do that. As I said, this is not a one-size-fits-all process. So this is customized. So yes, if you're a student who's looking at a 2-year school, wants to sit down and talk about the transfer process, you know, going from a 2-year school into a 4-year school, we can talk about that too. If you have a student who's thinking about going into an apprenticeship program, we can talk about that too. There's lots of different ways to go after high school that may not be a 4-year university. That's okay. We can talk about all of that.
Absolutely. Are any schools offering in-person tours, any SUNY schools, or should we just rely on virtual visits?
Well, some schools are offering personal tours right now. It's not a huge amount yet, but some of them are. In fact, I actually received an email from Fredonia today. I know it's far, but they are offering some personal tours of campus, not inside the buildings, but walking around the campus. So you might be surprised to see that, yes, there are some schools that are doing this. The large majority are still virtual, but there's a possibility that you could get on campus.
Another parent had asked if it is fiscally responsible to go to state versus a private institution.
Well, you know, I don't feel comfortable answering that question in a group, you know, sort of a general way, but the SUNY schools being the public universities, you know, certainly have, you know, a lower price point than do the private colleges. But then there's, you know, many more scholarship opportunities that could be available at the private colleges who utilize that CSS profile. So a lot of students, they consider applying to a range of schools, a couple of public schools, a couple of private schools, some schools that are closer to home, some schools that are further away, so that you have a diverse list of colleges. And then come May 1st, you're able to evaluate many different options. So when looking at that financial aid package between, say, a public school and a private school, you know, you might see that they're neck and neck. We don't know that at this point, but considering all options, you know, could be something to keep on your mind.
And we're getting a lot of thank yous, and that we've been very helpful and responsive, and
Sure.
we're being appreciated. So this information is, I'm so happy that has been well received by you all.
Great.
And
it's been my pleasure. You know, as I said, I know in this new virtual world, you know, it doesn't feel as personal to sit in front of my computer and speak with you this way, but we're going to humanize this as much as possible and individualize this for you as much as possible. So just continue to reach out and ask questions. Everything I've been doing as a school counselor for the last 19 years, I'm going to keep doing this, even if it's virtual. That's okay. You know, I'm learning as I go along as well. You know, how to do all of this. It's been fun. It's been exciting. A little bit challenging, but you know, now I'm kind of getting it. So I think we'll be good. We'll be good.
And of course, we have a comment that you are great. I think you're super awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you. So thank you all. So we will be able to watch this after the meeting. Okay, so if your student was not able to join the meeting because of other obligations, we will be posting. I'm going to try to post this to the website tomorrow, and I believe Mrs. Walsh, you're going to post it on the Google Classroom for seniors, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So everybody is well informed, or if they connected with us or joined the meeting. If you joined the meeting late because of work or whatever responsibilities you had prior to the meeting, absolutely you can view the recording of this meeting. And so I'd like to, on behalf of the guidance department and the college office and myself, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you real soon. We're here for you. We're all in this together. It's not a cliche-ish, it's just a cliche-ish saying, but we are here for you. And we want you to reach out to us and ask questions, and we're here to support you. So big air hug to you all, and have a great night, and we'll see each other soon.
Thank you for participating. We appreciate your support, and yes, we will see you soon.
Take care. Good night.